From my home office window, a pristine white snow scene stretched out before me. February in Greenwich, Connecticut, is always wrapped in harsh cold. Fresh snow had begun to accumulate on the street lined with colonial-style mansions. As I paused from typing on my computer keyboard, I felt the baby move inside me. 8 months pregnant. Since conceiving my first child, my life should have been filled with joy. It must be a boy. The Wilson family heir, I recalled the words of my obstetrician from yesterday's checkup, and couldn't help but smile. My husband Michael had already started thinking about names. William. A name befitting the prestigious Wilson family tradition. As I rolled the sound of it around in my mouth, my eyes fell on our wedding photo displayed on my cherrywood executive desk. 3 years ago, I met Michael at my father's company, Smith Construction's annual party. As an executive of Wilson Real Estate Development, he had approached me, champagne glass in hand, and gently struck up a conversation with my reserved self. I still vividly remember how he looked in his black tuxedo. Sincere, dedicated to his work, but with an endearingly absent-minded side, I fell for him immediately. The wedding was held grandly at the Greenwich Country Club. Many of the Wilson family's long-standing business partners and Greenwich's prominent figures attended. Next to me in my pure white wedding dress, my mother-in-law Barbara orchestrated the ceremony like the perfect socialite she was. As she chatted amiably with guests while her Tiffany necklace caught the light, she looked just like an actress. My sister-in-law Caitlin, true to her status as an influencer with 100,000 followers, kept posting about the ceremony on social media. Clutching her Hermes mini bag, she snapped photos incessantly, a calculating gleam ever present in her eyes. But I had begun to notice, bit by bit, from that day forward, something lurking behind their seemingly friendly attitudes. Like a small crack hidden behind a luxury boutique's display window. Oh, Emily. Is that bag from the second line? You could have found something much nicer at the main store. We Wilson women deserve only the finest, Barbara had remarked at a charity event, adjusting the collar of her Chanel tweed jacket with calculated casualness. I felt the momentary glances of the society women present fall upon me. This angle isn't very Instagram-worthy. Sorry, I might not be able to post it. It's really difficult to take photos that highlight your charm, Caitlin would say every time we took family photos. Her Instagram was filled with perfectly posed selfies. Our new life began in an upscale residential area. Our days flowed quietly in a 5-bedroom mansion overlooking Greenwich Harbor. While Michael immersed himself in work, I worked as a financial advisor at an investment bank, gradually becoming aware of the subtle psychology of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. The true feelings hidden behind their perfect smiles. Then came the news of my pregnancy. Barbara and Caitlin's attitudes began to change suddenly, as if years of ice were melting all at once. I want to arrange a wonderful baby shower for you. Let's celebrate this new life in the Wilson family properly, came the message from my mother-in-law, and I harbored a small hope. Surely this child's birth would be an opportunity to deepen family bonds. I wanted to believe it would herald the arrival of a warm spring to our cold relationships. Today is going to be special, I kept telling myself as I got ready in front of the mirror. My new maternity dress was Ralph Lauren's finest wool cashmere. Considering Greenwich's February cold, I had chosen a simple but warm material. The soft beige color complemented my skin tone perfectly. Around my neck, I wore the Tiffany necklace Michael had given me for our anniversary. I applied my makeup carefully too. Aiming for a natural look, I lightly blended Chanel foundation. Lately, I'd been selective about cosmetics, considering their effect on the baby. As I checked my reflection in the mirror, a flicker of anxiety crossed my mind. But I brushed it away, gently stroking my belly. Le Chateau, is it? I reread the message from my mother-in-law. An upscale French restaurant overlooking Greenwich Harbor. Known as a place where reservations are hard to get. The Michelin 2-star cuisine costs no less than $200 per person. The seafood platter alone is $150, and the Wagyu beef is $180. Even among local notables, it's treated as a special venue. Emily, are you ready? Michael called from the entryway. Dressed in a navy Brooks Brothers suit, he looked more dignified than ever. I was surprised, too, when I heard Mom and Sis were preparing this. But it'll be a good opportunity. They seem to be changing lately. Michael smiled gently as he settled into the Range Rover's seat. He couldn't attend the baby shower today due to an important meeting with clients in Boston. As he told me this, a hint of guilt showed in his expression. Watching his profile in the driver's seat, I felt a slight loneliness. Take care. Oh, is 7 o'clock good for dinner tonight? Yes, that'll work fine. Have fun. As Michael's car disappeared into the falling snow, I took a deep breath and headed toward the restaurant's grand entrance. The warm light from antique chandeliers cast soft shadows on the Italian marble floor. Clutching my Balenciaga bag, I approached the reception. I'm here for the Wilson family baby shower reservation. When I announced this at the front desk, the black-suited staff member's expression momentarily stiffened. A manager who appeared to be in his 40s began checking the reservation list with a troubled expression. I deeply apologize, but I don't see your name. Could it be under Barbara Wilson's reservation? Hiding my distress, I mentioned my mother-in-law's name. The staff began carefully checking the list again. At that moment, I heard lively laughter coming from the private party room in the back, accompanied by the pop of champagne. A familiar voice. My heart began to race. Oh, Emily. When I turned around, there stood my mother-in-law in an elegant Chanel tweed suit and my sister-in-law in the latest Prada silk dress. Van Cleef and Arpels jewelry sparkled at Barbara's neck. Curious eyes from surrounding tables turned toward us. Did you really think we were going to celebrate with you? Caitlin spoke mockingly. She already had her smartphone ready. A malicious smile peeked through beneath her perfect makeup. A reservation? There never was one. There's no place for you at our lunch. This should teach you a lesson. Barbara pronounced clearly enough for nearby diners to hear. Her eyes held a triumphant gleam. Did you really think you could become one of our class? You're just a construction company's daughter, aren't you? Can you even read the wine list at this restaurant? Caitlin's smartphone shutter sound echoed through the quiet restaurant. The whispers of regular patrons gradually grew louder. A tear rolled down my cheek. I slowly took out my own smartphone from my bag. My fingers didn't shake at all as I pressed the record button. The party room door opened, revealing the figures of society regulars. I left the scene gracefully but resolutely. The cold winter wind caressed my cheeks. The doorman watched me leave with sympathetic eyes. But no more tears fell. My heart had begun to kindle a quiet flame for the real battle that was about to begin. By the time I left the restaurant, Caitlin had already posted the entire incident on Instagram, naturally edited to show their preferred version of events. However, my posted video caused far greater ripples. Criticism of the Wilson family, particularly influential in Greenwich's upper society, came pouring in. Even the charitable organization where Barbara served as chairperson received urgent inquiries. "Emily, is this true?" That evening, Michael returned home in a fury. "Mother and sister did this." His voice held both anger and deep sadness. He was finally beginning to understand his mother and sister's true nature. In front of the living room fireplace, he held his head in his hands repeatedly. "The impact on the company is serious," Michael began explaining quietly but gravely. Wilson Real Estate Development's reputation was facing its biggest crisis in years. The corporate image they had built through charitable activities was crumbling overnight. Especially the relationship with Smith Construction. At those words, I caught my breath. My father's company, Smith Construction, was Wilson Real Estate Development's most important business partner. Their annual billion-dollar business relationship was vital to the company's survival. Now that relationship was in crisis. At that moment, the maid announced a visitor. "Ms. Martha is here." Michael's aunt, Martha Wilson. "Emily, the actions of these two who insulted you are unforgivable." Martha, dressed in a Chanel tweed suit, began speaking in a solemn tone. "However, this situation is no longer just a private matter. It's a crisis that affects the Wilson family's survival." In her hand was an envelope. A warning letter from Smith Construction. Michael's face turned pale at the contents, suggesting a complete review of business relations. "The shareholders have begun to move as well. At this rate, Michael, even your position as an executive." Martha's words rang heavily. Wilson Real Estate Development's stock price had fallen 15% in one day. The social media firestorm had directly hit the company's value. "We will hold an emergency family meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Wilson family main residence," Martha announced with a resolute attitude. Her eyes held a severity I had never seen before. A new notification arrived on my phone. An email from my father. "Daughter, I will attend tomorrow's family meeting. Our future relationship with Wilson Real Estate will be determined with the utmost respect for your wishes." The email noted that Smith Construction's legal counsel would also be present. Upstairs in the home office, Michael faced documents late into the night. His phone was flooded with inquiries from shareholders and business partners. His mother and sister's reckless actions had pushed the company to the brink of existential crisis. "Why didn't I notice?" Michael's whisper was absorbed into the quiet darkness of night. Late at night, a message arrived from Barbara. "Emily, please understand our feelings." But it was too late. The message remained read but unanswered. From the bedroom window, I could see Greenwich's snow-covered night scene. Snowflakes illuminated by streetlights sparkled like diamonds. The scene seemed to be quietly watching over the fate of the Wilson family, which would change dramatically from tomorrow. The baby moved slightly in my belly. "It's okay," I gently stroked my stomach. After all, this child would herald the beginning of a new Wilson family. The documents necessary for tomorrow's family meeting were already loaded in Michael's Range Rover parked at the entrance. Corporate financial statements, details of business relationships, and the data from my recorded video. These would determine the Wilson family's fate tomorrow. A message arrived from Martha as well. Emily, tomorrow is your opportunity to demonstrate your legitimacy. With dignity. I quietly took a deep breath. At tomorrow's family meeting, a new order would be established in the Wilson family. And it would certainly not be merciful. The February morning light fell coldly on the Wilson family's main residence. The 18th-century colonial-style mansion is known as a historic building in Greenwich. Past the all-marble entrance lies the main living room lined with antique furniture. This room, usually brightened by potted plants, was wrapped in an unusual tension this morning. "We've been expecting you." James, the butler, greeted us solemnly. His expression, after serving this house for over 40 years, conveyed the importance of today's meeting. Family members quietly took their seats around the heavy mahogany conference table. Aunt Martha sat at the head, with my father Thomas Smith beside her. Jonathan Bradley, Smith Construction's legal counsel, was also present, already reviewing documents in his gray Brooks Brothers suit. Barbara and Caitlin appeared in unusually subdued attire. Their typically flashy accessories were nowhere to be seen, replaced by understated navy suits. Clear agitation could be seen in their expressions. "Let's begin," Martha's voice rang out quietly. The antique clock showed 10 o'clock. "Barbara, Caitlin, please explain yesterday's events." As Barbara tried to speak, Caitlin interrupted. "It was just a joke." "A joke?" Michael's voice rumbled low. "Calling out an 8-month pregnant woman to an upscale restaurant in the middle of winter to insult her. That's a joke?" This might have been the first time I'd seen such anger from usually mild-mannered Michael. "Is the 15% drop in company stock price also a joke?" Michael began spreading out documents. Detailed financial statements, stock price trends, social media response analysis. Everything told of the situation's gravity. "Inquiries are flooding in from major business partners," Michael continued. "Especially from charitable business partners, suggesting contract reviews." "But that's..." Barbara tried to interject, but fell silent at Martha's glance. "More serious is our relationship with Smith Construction." At those words, the room's atmosphere froze. My father quietly took out documents. The paper with Smith Construction's official letterhead detailed a complete review of business relations. $1 billion annual contract. The continuation of deals accounting for 30% of Wilson real estate development sales was now in crisis. This is not mere suggestion. Legal counsel Bradley began explaining in a cool tone. The basic contract with Smith Construction includes a termination clause for antisocial behavior. Such antisocial behavior by your company's officers and their families. Wait. Caitlin suddenly raised her voice. Panic showed through beneath her perfect makeup. "We'll apologize. We'll delete the social media posts. It's too late." Martha's voice rang cold. "The video has already been viewed over 1 million times. The impact on the local community is immeasurable." "Then what should we Barbara's voice trembled faintly. The decision has already been made. Martha took out a document. Barbara, you will resign as chairperson of the charitable organization. Caitlin, cease all social media activity immediately. And both of you. Martha paused for a moment. Are forbidden from participating in official Wilson family events for the foreseeable future. Heavy silence fell over the room. This is a family decision, Martha continued. Are there any objections? No one spoke up. A tear rolled down Barbara's cheek. Emily. Now Martha turned to me. Please share your thoughts. I quietly steadied my breath. The baby moved slightly in my belly. Their actions until now are absolutely unforgivable. My voice was calmer than expected. But I don't wish for complete severance of relations. Because I placed my hand on my stomach. This child will soon be born as a new member of the Wilson family. When that time comes, this child will need a grandmother and an aunt. However, I looked straight at Barbara and Caitlin. A sincere apology is needed, with a promise to never repeat such mistakes. The room's atmosphere softened slightly. A wise judgment. My father nodded quietly. Let's work out the specific conditions. The legal counsel took out new documents. Draft apology statements from Barbara and Caitlin, handling of social media accounts, resignation procedures from charitable organizations, and their position in future family events. All details were organized into legally binding documents. Outside the window, snow from yesterday continued to fall gently. The pure white scene seemed to quietly watch over the new order about to visit this family. This concludes the family meeting. Martha's voice rang out. The clock already showed noon. Barbara and Caitlin signed the documents with trembling hands. Their demeanor no longer showed a trace of yesterday's arrogance. Michael placed his hand on my shoulder. His expression showed relief mixed with deep fatigue. Good work, Emily. Let's go home. As we left, Butler James saw us off with concern. Take care, madam. His words seemed to carry 40 years of loyalty and wisdom. Before getting into the Range Rover, I took one last look at the Wilson family main residence. This historic mansion had reached a major turning point today. The baby moved again in my belly, as if saying, "Well done." Our son was born a little earlier than expected. A healthy boy weighing 6 pounds. Michael was so overjoyed he kept holding his son's tiny hand, tearing up repeatedly. He looks just like his father, Aunt Martha said gently while holding the baby. Her stern expression softened before her grandson. This is really wonderful, Barbara whispered softly from the corner of the room. Over these 2 months, she had changed dramatically. After resigning from the charitable organization, she moved to a modest single-family home in the suburbs and now leads a humble life. Her flashy accessories were gone, and today she wore a simple dress. Would you like to hold him? At my words, Barbara showed a surprised expression. As she timidly approached, Martha quietly entrusted the baby to her hands. Tears glistened in Barbara's eyes. So tiny, yet such strong hands. At that moment, the hospital room door opened and Caitlin peeked in. She too had changed significantly. Her social media accounts were completely shut down, and now she works as a regular employee at a local real estate company. Her former arrogance had disappeared, replaced by humility. "Emily, may I see the baby?" I nodded with a smile. Much had changed since that family meeting. Beyond their formal written apologies, Barbara and Caitlin had conveyed words of deep reflection to us personally. Especially in their concern for my health during late pregnancy, there was genuine thoughtfulness. The company, too, was gradually regaining stability. The contract with Smith Construction was maintained, albeit under strict conditions. The stock price had entered a recovery trend, and trust from business partners was slowly returning. "Everyone," Michael spoke up. "There's one more announcement today." He pulled a document from his pocket. "The board of directors has decided to request Emily to serve as chairperson of the company's compliance committee." The room fell silent. The appointment comes in recognition of her investment banking experience. Wilson Real Estate now needs transparent management. Martha nodded with satisfaction. "An excellent decision." Barbara showed a complex expression but quickly changed to a gentle smile. "Emily will surely do wonderful work." Her words held none of the former sarcastic tone. A few weeks later, at our son's first birthday celebration held in our home's living room, Barbara brought a homemade apple pie. Caitlin presented a baby sweater she had knitted herself. Neither gift was extravagant, but both were heartfelt. "Looks like you've got your old cooking skills back," Martha remarked to Barbara. In her younger days, Barbara apparently had a homely side. Perhaps the essence of who she was, forgotten in her obsession with social status, was gradually returning. "Hey, Emily," Caitlin approached me. Would it be okay if I restart Instagram?" Her eyes held no calculating light like before, only pure expectation. "But this time, I want to share my true self. Not a facade, but who I really am." I nodded with a smile. "Why not? You should discuss it with Aunt Martha." Outside the window, Greenwich's spring breeze was scattering magnolia petals in the garden. A year later, our son's birthday party was held at the Wilson family main residence. Barbara, now every bit the doting grandmother, fussed over her grandson with a gentle expression. Caitlin's new Instagram account, themed around authentic lifestyle, was gathering modest support. While juggling work and childcare, I worked on building our family's new form. As compliance committee chairperson, I strive to improve company transparency while not forgetting to deepen family bonds. "A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this," Barbara said, drawing close to me during the party. "Back then, I was so arrogant." Her voice held traces of regret, but also hope for her new life. "But thanks to you, we were able to change." In the living room, William was attempting his first steps. Michael waited with open arms, while Martha offered gentle encouragement. Caitlin quietly filmed the scene this time, to record the family's genuine joy. "Come on, William. Over here." I reached out to my son. His small steps were still unsteady but moving surely forward. It seemed to represent our family's journey itself. Barbara still occasionally lights up at society gossip. Caitlin sometimes gets caught up in the latest trends. But that's just part of who they are, not everything. Having realized the true value of family, their former arrogance had receded. Outside the window, another spring breeze was blowing. This time last year, on that harsh winter day, I never could have predicted this. Celebrating my son's birthday within such a warm family circle. Butler James elegantly poured champagne. His eyes held the gentle satisfaction of one who had watched this year's changes unfold. "Let's make a toast," Martha announced. "To the future of the new Wilson family." The gentle clinking of glasses echoed through the sunlit living room. William showed an innocent smile amidst the circle of adults. I quietly let out a deep sigh. Having weathered the harsh winter, our family had truly entered a new season. Their genuine bonds had sprouted, not just for show. I felt movement in my belly. Yes, our second child was preparing to join this new family. This time, surely a girl. The story of our growing family, embracing both cold winds and warm sunshine, was just beginning. I wanted to remain both witness and guide to this journey.